I'm ABC News Radio entertainment correspondent David Blaustein, joined by the star of SyFy's Alice, Caterina Scorsone. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
My first question for you, are you prepared to be the object of desire for every fanboy on the entire planet? Because I think that's where this is heading. You're starring on a show on SyFy, and it's just one of those things that may happen.
We're right in the 18 to 34 or 14 to, I don't know which demographic. I hadn't thought about that.
Tell us a little bit about you, because you're a working actress, you do good stuff, but this is the highest profile thing you're doing. You have another high profile thing coming up very soon, but let's talk about this first.
Yes, to date, this is, I think, the highest profile. Definitely the biggest publicity machine I've ever been a part of. A lot of the work that I'd done before was was out of Canada, and it's just not the same kind of publicity, juggernaut that you get in the States. And so it's been kind of a whole learning curve, but it's been fun. It's kind of fun. I like this.
And it's a really good production. You have a lot of very talented people involved in this project. Kathy Bates playing the Queen. Well, let's back up a little bit. First of all, we should say that this is based on Alice in Wonderland. It happens probably about 115 or 120 years later, and your name happens to be Alice, and you somehow fall through the looking glass.
Yes, so all of those presuppositions. It's not based on Lewis Carroll's, it's based on Lewis Carroll's books. It's not a retelling of his story. It's kind of a reimagining. So yeah, it's 150 years later. A lot of the same kind of themes and characters are in this version, but they've all kind of been adjusted and messed with and reinterpreted. And so yes, my character shares the name Alice, but she's a different Alice entirely.
She winds up falling through the looking glass because of a guy.
Yeah. There's there's a love situation. All things are go, and then he pulls out a ring, and it's a trigger. She's out. And then he gets kidnapped into Wonderland, and she pursues him.
But Wonderland is a very different place.
Yes. The Queen of Hearts, played by Kathy Bates, has taken over. And so she's taken over kind of the hearts and minds of all of the people. So Wonderland, through her kind of calculated manipulation, has become a much darker, much scarier, much more addicted place. The Queen of Hearts kidnaps humans from our world and brings them into Wonderland and brings them to a massive casino where they're all hooked up to these tables where everyone wins all the time. And so these kind of positive emotions like passion and lust and excitement and are kind of drained out of humans, and they call humans oysters. And these tinctures that they get from humans are used to kind of pacify the masses in Wonderland. Anytime they're feeling scared or angry or any negative emotion, they can kind of ingest these positive emotion tinctures and not worry about anything.
It sounds remarkably similar to Las Vegas.
It's very much like Las Vegas. We talked a lot about kind of gambling and addictions of all sorts and anything that would kind of mask the painful bits of reality.
Just like Vegas.
Just like Vegas.
You get to work with somebody like Kathy Bates, who's one of the best actresses there is. What is that like for a young up-and-coming actress like yourself? What do you learn from a Kathy Bates?
It is absolutely humbling. You kind of walk onto first you look at the call sheet and you see her name next to yours and you realize that you really have many, many people in your life to thank for somehow transporting you safely to this point. And so there's that. And then you get to set and she's so phenomenally talented. So although she's been doing it for so long and, has all of these tools and all of this talent at her disposal, it didn't mean that she was going to kind of sit back and wing it. She really was 100% focused all the time. And so that was, as a young actor, that's inspiring to kind of watch and be like, okay, that's the way you do it. That's how you have a career that spans this many years and that inspires so many people.
Let me ask you, what did you do first? Because you're also in Edge of Darkness with Mel Gibson, which is coming out in January, and I know some people have problems with Mel Gibson, but the fact of the matter is He's a very talented
He's a
guy.
very talented actor.
What did you do first?
I shot the movie with Mel first, and that was directed by Martin Campbell, who's also great. He did Casino Royale, and he does a lot of fantastic action movies. And so we did that in Boston in November, and then we shot Alice not that long ago. We shot it from like end of May to beginning of August of this year.
A common debate amongst actors, I think, if they live in New York or if they live in another part of the country, should I move to L.A.?
Right.
Should I go to L.A.?
Yeah.
And I see you had an issue with that, but also I think because we were talking beforehand, you had an interesting career path. Maybe if you didn't become an actress, there was something else you were studying.
Yes.
There was something else you were doing.
Something
what was
else
that?
I was interested in. Well, first, I went to university and I studied nothing related to acting. I did literary studies and postmodern theory. So that was unrelated. But then I came back to the industry and I did an FBI television show for 3 years. But I'd also recently assisted my sister. She was doing a home birth with her daughter, Carmen, and I had been her labor coach, and it was a really fantastic experience. And so I'd gotten really interested in midwifery. She had done it at home with a midwife, and so I read this book by a woman named Ina May Gaskin, who is kind of a pioneer of midwifery in North America, and she had this place called The Farm in Tennessee where she trained people to be midwives and had been practicing midwifery for years. And so in between doing Missing and moving to LA, I kind of went to Tennessee and trained to be an assistant midwife for a little while as I was kind of debating what I wanted to do next. And then ended up coming out to LA and starting to get an agent and also assisting a midwife for a while until the acting kind of took over, and that had to go on the back burner. But yeah.
It's so funny to me that actresses are so attracted to you're attracted to midwifery, and that was something you were interested in doing, and you said you were actually a doula, which is
doula, yeah.
You were a doula. But there are also a lot of actresses who are choosing to do home birth or use midwives. I mean, there's the Ricky Lake thing. We just had Kerry Russell up here a few weeks ago, and that's something she talked about as well. Why are actresses so interested in home birth and midwifery?
Women evolved for millions and millions of years to be able to give birth very well. Our whole bodies are structured to do this thing very well, and occasionally there are complications. But that's different from something you would normally do in a hospital, which has to do with disease and pathology, right? And so I think as women are learning more about their bodies and learning more about what they want, they're starting to go, oh, I'm being pregnant and having a baby doesn't mean I'm ill. It means that I'm doing something that is totally natural. So why would I be in a medical facility to do that? That said, thank God we have medical facilities, because sometimes there are emergencies and you need to have medical staff to deal with them. But I think in a lot of cases, natural birth is a really fantastic option that's really empowering for women. And I mean, with actresses, I suppose lots of actors and actresses spend a lot of time sitting around thinking about thinking about themselves, but thinking about people and characters, and so maybe that's, I don't know why, but I think women in general are starting to become a lot more interested in the idea that pregnancy and birth is something beautiful and empowering and natural, as opposed to something that they need to be rescued from.
So if you're a trained doula, if anybody needs a doula, where can they get in touch with you?
They can call my manager in Los Angeles. I mean, that was the one trick. It was that, when you're auditioning and when you're working, you kind of, birth, especially natural birth, is kind of unpredictable. So if you're doing like a 2-day labor or a 26-hour labor, your agent can't get you on the phone. And so you kind of have to choose at a certain point. And so for now, it's acting.
Well, I think you made the right choice.
Thank you.
Alice is really great. I think you're going to have a lot of success from it, and I expect that you will never ever have time to be a doula. Ever.
Well, let's hope.
Caterina Scorsone.
Yes.
And I think at some point I won't ever have trouble saying your name, because I think everybody's going to know it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
For ABC News Radio and abcnewsradio.com, I'm David Blaustein.